Rotarians and guests, today is quite a special one for us, our club, Rotary and our community, with our first Indigenous honorary member and Frank's revealing of the project that we've got for our centenary. My first personal awareness of the O'Brien clan goes back well over 20 years or so, when I delighted always in listening to Rod's dad, Uncle Lewis O'Brien. He welcomed people to Kaurna country, told a ripper joke, and encouraged us to walk together in harmony. Of course, I'd be remiss in not mentioning Rod's brother, younger brother, Mickey, who, as many would know, wore the black and white of the mighty Port Adelaide Magpies with distinction. I would also like to think that we would never lose the warmth and genuineness of spirit displayed by Uncle Lewis and his siblings, or his family, Mickey and Rodney, for the sake of rote-learned messages we often hear when we hear an acknowledgement of country, usually rattled off with no real understanding or feeling of the words and true meaning. Rod will talk today about the importance of language and culture in our mutual society. His background is covered in the bulletin, so let's now welcome to the lectern a proud Kaurna man, Uncle Rod O'Brien.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I talk about what I'm going to talk about, I'd just like to say it's humbling for me to be made an honorary member of the Rotary Club of Adelaide. I've been given so many honours this year. I think I'm getting a bit overwhelmed by them, because I was the first cultural advisor of Adelaide Uni. I was given they did a portrait of me, and they hung it in the library for everyone to see it, and I don't know if it was a good description of me, but they reckon I had the artist caught me as a cheeky grin. So I like to say that I am a cheeky fellow, but I'm also an honest fellow, and I like to talk about my culture now. Before I do that, though, I'll just give a welcome to my country, because as part of cultural protocol, it's important that we start by doing a welcome to country, because that's how people did this for thousands of years, and we did this because we believe that it's not only the right thing to do, it's the proper thing to do, because if you're going to invite people to come to your country, you should invite them in a respectful manner. And therefore, if you invite them in a respectful manner, they'll do the right thing while they're in your country. So I'll start by saying, Machawanga Kaurna Mena, no Wangdi, Mani Nabudni, Gani Atana, no Berko Mankalankla, Tandanya Mena Aku, Nachi Ungdaya, Nachi Akandaya, Padni Adu Wadu. So on behalf of my country, I do this ambassador of the Adelaide Plains people. My brothers, my sisters, let's walk together in harmony. So, as a cultural advisor, or I'll just give you a little bit of background about my life, because how I got to doing what I do today. I was brought up in Port Adelaide. I'm a Taparoo boy, and but all my life I've mixed with other cultures, and my father's always encouraged us to go as far as we could in education, because yes, sports is good, and with three brothers we played for Port Adelaide, and we love Port Adelaide, and the Magpies especially, but now the Power. But our father always said there's life after football, and you've got to have something to carry on with your life, like an education, because education doesn't give you everything, but it gives you a ticket, an option to go open doors a career. So he always encouraged us to go as far as we could in life as we could. Because I first started working with my father. He was a fitter and turner at Adelaide Cement Company. I worked about 3 months with him as what they called back in the day a fitter's mate, or they call it a trade assistant now. My dad said to me one day, I said, "I think, son, you better go back to school. I don't think you're cut out for this type of work." So anyway, that was probably a good blessing in disguise, because it encouraged me to go on further studies and go to university, and I was the first one in my family to get a degree and so forth. But you have to have role models in your life, and my role model in my life was my nana. People might have heard her, I don't know, but her name was Gladys Elphick. I lived a lot of my life with her, because when I was starting off my life, I was a twin, and my brother died as a week old, and unfortunately he died on my big brother's birthday, which was a double whammy for our family. So I spent the first 3 months of my life with my nana. Everyone come to her place. She was known as Auntie Glad in the community, and she started the Aboriginal Women's Council, which was the first Aboriginal organisation in Adelaide. And her influence on people and in life always followed me through, because she always said that no one group or one people can do everything by themselves. Everyone needs help to get over hurdles, and you always need support from other people. No matter, one race can't do it by themselves. That's what basically she said. So she had a lot of friends and networks through the church, and even the Communist Party of Australia. She got support through them, because what she started to do was run a Christmas tree for kids, Aboriginal kids that didn't get Christmas presents. So what she did was go to the department schools and got what they called seconds, like toys that had scratches on them, but they were basically brand new, but just weren't allowed to be sold as brand new toys, because they had a little bit of damage. But she got them toys donated, and she ran a Christmas tree for families that couldn't give their kids toys. Anyway, my nan only went to grade 3 at school. She was brought up on Port Piers mission. But before she went to school, she used to milk 40 cows, get up 3 o'clock in the morning. So from that she taught us, and my father taught me about work ethic. You can be given a Guernsey to play football, but you've got to earn the right to live up to that right of wearing that Guernsey. Because I was given the right to go to medical school, I was the first Aboriginal medical student, but he said to me, "You're given the Guernsey now, you've got to earn it." So that's always followed me through life. If you get an opportunity, you've got to take it. And he always encouraged us to take up new opportunities. My dad was as I said, he was a fitter and turner. He went to Lefebvre High School. He went probably further than a lot of Aboriginal kids, because he was born on the mission too, Point Piers. He lost his mother when he was 14, so he's put in a boys' school. But he never had bitterness in his life, that because he saw no one in his family for about 4 years, from when he was 14 to 18. But he always said, like, that was a new sort of learning for him, because he took strength from it, because it taught him to be independent. And that's what he taught us, to be independent. Don't depend on people. Make a life for yourself and be able to look after yourself, because our culture is built on getting to a stage where you can not only cater for yourself, but cater for your family. Like, look after you, because people might know, but they think Aboriginal people, or Kaurna people, I can talk about in particular, young Kaurna men weren't allowed to marry till they were 28, because there's so many subjects they had to pass to the Elders' Council, because we never had kings or queens, even though, like, my name is Rodney. I was named after a famous Aboriginal man named Ichimai Penna, but the Europeans called him King Rodney. When I was born, my nana said to my mum, "You got to name one of them boys Rodney," so that's me. But his name was Ichimai Penna. But he lived in Port Adelaide, and that's why I was named after him, because I grew up in Port Adelaide. But that culture is important to say in my work, is that you should respect all different cultures, because our people always said, in our country, Kaurna people were educators, and what we did was invite people from there's 250 nations around Australia, Aboriginal groups, and what our people did notice as being educators was everyone can't know everything. No one has the monopoly on knowledge. We can all learn from one another. So what our people did was invite other people to come and share their knowledge with us. We learn from them and they learn from us. And that's a better way to live, because I think we could do with that right now in the world, because there's, you only have to look at Ukraine and Russia. That's a struggle over power, unnecessary power struggle, really. And who loses out of that? The working class people, and the people that are just used as pawns to fight a crazy power man's war. But, I won't get into raving on about that, because I just think war's a terrible thing. Though it's sometimes necessary, like, Aboriginal people fought in every war that Australia ever fought for. Not many people know that there's 27 Aboriginal men fought in the Boer War, but none of them were allowed to come back to Australia, which was a pretty devastating thing when you think about Aboriginal history, because they were classed as non-citizens. They were actually classed as aliens, so under the White Australia policy back in the day, and so they weren't allowed to return to Australia, and so to survive they had to live in South Africa for the rest of their lives, which was a terrible thing for their families and their loved ones back home. But unfortunately, them things happen in the past. Why I say that is I don't hope that terrible things like that happen in the future. But we should never... My nana always said you never live in the past, but you don't forget the past. But we should always move forward together as one group of people. Yes, we have our own cultural differences and our own ways and our own biases. I back for Port Adelaide, other people in the Ren Barrowford Crows. Well, we can agree to disagree on that, but who's the better side or whatever. But I know who's better, Port Adelaide. But it's important. Differences as well as your commonalities, because to get on with life and to be successful in life, you have to be a person that's not only a go-getter, but a person that encourages inclusiveness, I believe, anyway, because if you encourage inclusiveness, you get a better understanding of not only yourself, but other people that you deal with or work with. And so that's how I was brought up. In terms of language is important. Kaurna language was considered an endangered language. It was, we were fortunate enough though, there was two German missionaries, Teichmann and Sherman, that taught our children just across the way here at Pinku Flat, which is just across from the Memorial Courts there. Pinku in our language means bilby, and that's where our people had a camp there. They used to live, and two German missionaries lived with them. But down where people near the Weir, there was this Aboriginal school that these two German missionaries taught our children in Kaurna language. And we were fortunate enough back in 2014 to get 3 letters back from Germany written in Kaurna language by 3 of them students. And they were written in perfect Kaurna cursive writing in Kaurna language. Back in the day, you had people in the room would know that you had to have ink and pen and all that, like the white way too, But those letters that you can see in the Bar Smith Library in the Special Collections area. So I'd encourage if people want to know learn about our language, go and have a look at those letters. But also our language is always, our people, and my nana always said, and my dad's always encouraged me to know language from other areas. Because if you go in other people's country, the important thing is to know their language, because if you know their language, you know them, you'll know their country and you know yourself and them better, because language does improve your understanding and your, I guess, your cooperativeness in mixing with people, so because you'll know better about them. Because I can tell you a story. My dad was in the Merchant Navy, and he worked on shell tankers in New Guinea and stuff like that. But he worked with a crew one day, a Dutch crew, and he just learnt, well, he didn't know their language, the Dutch language, but he just by listening to them, because our people were great observers and listeners, he just learnt how to say good morning to them in their language. And he said to them one day, oh, good morning, in their language. Oh, I don't speak Dutch, so I can't speak their language. But he just said, oh, and they said to him, oh, you know our language? And he said, no, I just know how to say good morning to you. So from that day on, they treated him better, because he took the time to learn their language, just to say good day. And I'd say to you today, just learn them. You know, I don't expect people in the room to know Kaurna language fluently. I'm fortunate enough to learn from my nana and my dad, and get back to school 2 years ago to be able to do a TAFE course to be able to teach my own language, but that's part of life and the conditions that we live in now. But I think that's important to know a little bit. Even if you know Nina Mani, or Nina Mani just means our way of saying hello, how are you? It actually means, are you good? It also means, are you fat? So, because if you're fat, you're probably in good condition, you know. You're not starving anyway, like that. But, yeah, so if I said to you, well, actually, there's three. Nina Mani is if I'm only talking to one person. Niwa Mani is when I'm talking to two people. Ngā Mani is when I'm talking to all of you. So there's one, two, and many. That's how our people thought. So yeah, so if I said to use Ngā Mani, what do you reckon your response would be? Mani ai, well done. Mani ai means I'm good. You could say Yucca Mani, I'm no good, but that's if you're a crow, I reckon. No. But no, because anyway, I won't get on to football. But yeah, life is important to know your language, because I think if you know your own language, I always encourage, not only I teach Indigenous knowledge at uni with another teacher, she's an Indian lady, but we encourage to learn other cultures as well, because it gives you extension of your knowledge. As I said before, no one has a monopoly on knowledge, but it's also important for your identity. I encourage, you know, people to learn language because it extends your thinking. But you should know your own people's language, whether you come from Germany or whatever country, your background, your cultural background. My background, I can tell a few Irish jokes because my grandfather was Irish, but I'll tell one in a minute. But it's important to know your own language, because that gives you identity. And if you give culture is important, language is important to your culture. If you've got your culture and your language, they only go together if you're together with them, like they're intact. I mean, like one can't do without the other. You have to know your language to have your identity and your culture. They're all intertwined. And so it's important that we encourage Indigenous language, because I said, as before, our language wasn't considered endangered, but in 1989 a group of Kaurna elders and revived our language. Our people said it wasn't dead or dying, it was just asleep, and we need to reawaken it, because through those German missionaries we were fortunate enough they recorded 3,000 words of our language. So that was a good basis for us to reclaim our language and start teaching our kids again. Because, as I said before, we believe our language doesn't only belong to us or owned by us, it belongs to the country. So we want to share that language with all the kids that live on the Adelaide Plains, because we believe it belongs to everyone that lives on the Aboriginal Adelaide Plains. And if you know our language, as I said before, you'll know our country better, you'll know our culture better, and you'll live a better life, I can guarantee that. And because you'll have a better understanding of the country you live in, and you'll care for the country more. And if you care for our country, or care for the country you live in, the country will care better for you. That's what our old people always said. So it's important to know a bit of language. So even if you just said, "Oh, Rod, Nina Marnie," and I'll say, "Marnie, you're back for Port Adelaide." But no, it's good to just share that with you, because I think it's important that when I'm talking about culture and language, that not only I encourage to learn my language, Kaurna language, if you live in Adelaide. If you go work in the API lands, learn Pidgindara language, or if you go work in Darwin, learn Larrakia language, just to have a better understanding of the traditional people of that country. As the old saying goes, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans. Well, when you're in Adelaide, learn Kaurna language. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say today. But as I said before, I'll finish off with telling a joke. All right. Absolutely. Okay, there's 3 blokes in the bar, an Irishman, an Englishman, and an Australian, and they're talking about the fastest thing they've ever seen. Anyway, the Englishman goes, the fastest thing I've ever seen is a blink, because it's instantaneous. That's very quick. And the Aussie goes, yeah, that's not bad, mate, but I reckon electricity's the fastest thing I've ever seen. Because you go to the light switch, we even finish pulling the lever, the light's on. That's bloody quick. And the Irishman goes, sure to be sure, boys, I reckon diarrhea's the fastest thing I've ever seen. And he said, diarrhea, how'd you work that out? And he said, well, I was in bed the other night, I had a pain in my stomach, before I could blink, I turned the light on, I shut myself. But that's the end of that. Okay, thank you.
In the wonderful traditions of his father. I'm going to hand over to some questions, but I'm going to take the prerogative of the first questions, Rod. You taught me Ninamani, which meant good day, good, whatever, but for the benefit and perhaps the education and the humour for our audience, you might tell them the other meaning of Ninamani.
Oh, just, yeah.
Well fed.
Yeah, are you fat? You've got a lot of food in there.
Yeah, you're looking well.
You're looking well.
Been grazing in the back paddock.
Starving.
Right, questions.
So, I might just start off myself.
Florian.
So questions like how many, like today, the kind of people, it's like how big is the community and where is it kind of like predominantly, is it like Adelaide City, is it spread over the whole plains? It's like is there some kind of like centre where most of the community resides?
Come over to my car. All right. Yeah, it's hard to judge where, well, there's, in terms of how many Kaurna people, because a lot of our community is intermarried, like between a number of groups, so can't really say they're only just Kaurna. For instance, myself, I got Kaurna, but my mother's side is Naranga, so I could say I'm a Kaurna Naranga man, but I say Kaurna because I live in Kaurna country, and I believe you can only be in one camp at one time, so to speak, belong to one nation. But there's big populations at Elizabeth Way and down south at Hackham and that area down south there's a lot of Aboriginal people. They're not all Kaurna, but, and Port Adelaide, of course, we've got a fair population of Aboriginal people in Port Adelaide as well.
Frank.
I just want to make an observation about my Irish grandfather.
Yeah.
We have something in common.
Yeah.
It's only in the last few months that the government in Westminster acknowledged that Gaelic would be an official language in Northern Ireland. Now, that lack of recognition has caused a lot of trouble over many, many years, over 100 years. The partition of Ireland happened 100 years ago, and only now is the native language being recognised in that part. And I think we will find that recognition will help the healing that needs to go forward as Ireland gets united. So I encourage you to keep developing the Kaurna language, and we look forward to most children in school at least being exposed to some element of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Malcolm?
More a comment.
Oh, no, it's on, I think. Just
Okay, more a comment. My son was a Rotary Exchange student in Japan in 1999, and it was one of the best experiences for him in his life. He went to Japan with no language, and you were talking of learning your language, and it made him a far more humble person. He came back to Australia and he realised he could achieve anything he could. Is there anything being done about teaching your language in our schools?
Yep. What we've done over the last to teach the language, you have to have a number of teachers trained up. In Adelaide Plains, there's something like we need 50 teachers to be able to teach in all the schools. So in the last 3 I've been the chairperson of the Kaurna language. What we've done over the last 3 years is train up 15 teachers a year to be, because you not only have to be competent in the language, you have to be able to assess it and teach to a curriculum. So what we aim to do is in the next 3 years train about 60 teachers up, so that we've got a pool of teachers that we can offer to all the schools on Adelaide Plains the opportunity to learn our language, because it's no good sort of encouraging people to learn the language if you don't have enough teachers to teach it. The demand is there. We get requests all the time for our language to be taught. We just haven't got enough to go to all the schools at the moment. But we're going to get there. Our vision is within the next 5 to 10 years that all the schools will be taught Kaurna language.
Malcolm?
You've partly answered my question, but I worked with your father Lewis, one of the most gracious and gentle men out at Wattle Park Teachers Centre in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And with John Lunay, who had previous experience. How is your father now?
Yeah, Dad's doing all right. He's 92 and he still walks every day, and well, he has to walk because he goes around the tab every day. But
did you say Port Adelaide?
He lives in Port Adelaide. He lives at Efflin. Actually, a good story about Dad. He was born on Point Piers, but when he was 5 years old, he went to school in Efflin, and Mum. Then we shifted a bit around Adelaide, and we lived at Mum and Dad lived at Taproo for 37 years. For the last 22 years, he's lived in that same street, Willimont Street, that he grew up and first went to school. So it's a whole turnaround in his life. So, but he's still in good nick. Yeah, he's still a healthy man, and he doesn't. He's not a good doctor's fan. But he has takes a lot of vitamins and stuff like that to keep himself going.
You can't take the peninsula out of the man, can you?
No, he's a Lefebvre boy. That's right.
And I think the last question on our right.
Oh, thanks very much, Natalia. Thanks very much, Uncle Rod, for your presentation today. I wanted to ask, really following on from the previous question about the education and the language teaching, what's the perspective of the youth, the Kaurna youth today, about learning the language and promoting their culture to the future? Thank you.
Yeah. Our youth are very, well, not just our youth, the Aboriginal youth, but I think non-Aboriginal youth are wanting to learn our language too. But with young people today, you have to move with the times, and they got mobile phones and they want to learn quicker than we did as young people, learning through textbooks. So we're developing resources like a text sort of app on our phone where they can text in Kaurna language and stuff like that. Because you got to keep young people on side. You got to work with the technology that they want to work with. And we believe, our old people have always said, you can't stay and live in the past, you've got to move forward with the times. So that's what we're trying to do, is keep our young people excited in learning the language. There is a great revival of our language in the schools, and our young people get more pride in themselves by learning their language. And I think the non-Aboriginal kids that they learn with too get a pride in themselves as well, to know that the language of the country they live in. So, I think it's more important to be inclusive of people than non-exclusive. Say, look, only Aboriginal kids can learn the language. That's back in the dark ages, I believe. To be a modern world, we've got to encourage everyone to learn together. So that's what I believe in.
That's a great note to end on. Just before we say farewell, I've been handed a note to remind me of the importance of language and learning language. One of the I won't say favourite or favoured languages, but some in the room is Gaelic, and the words wantina. Right there, right, Frank?
No, it was my attempt at Ghana.
Frank writes notes the way he talks. Anyway, on that note, we won't. Sorry.
Yeah, wantina means where you going. Yeah. I think you better go home, Frank.
We've actually been saying that to him for years, right? Uncle Rod, on behalf of the members present and those who will view your presentation online, I thank you, we thank you so much for being here, for accepting the role of being our honorary member, and for being a most interesting guest speaker. Let us truly walk together in harmony. And I think they're very important words. May I present to you a thank you certificate for an appreciation of you being here, and almost as importantly, a Rotary teddy bear. Okay. Handcrafted by some partners of Rotarians. All the monies raised in our lunches and you attracting people here goes to the work that we do in the community, and we thank you. Members, could you please stand and thank Uncle Rod with gusto.